Hello and welcome to the video. It is time to revisit the cherished by many Wintertide brand build. In the third point, 2.6 update the cold damage over time archetype received a series of buffs. The base damage was increased and plenty of new passives and masteries were introduced. The golem buffs of the Elementalist Ascendancy are also a substantial improvement, especially on the lower side of the budget. The Wintertide brand is undoubtedly the best skill of this archetype. It has two components. It firstly attaches to enemies, continuously inflicting a stacking debuff, which increases in power over time. Upon removal, it inflicts all nearby enemies with another damage over time debuff based on the accumulated stages. The enemies can take damage from 3 brands and 1 final debuff at the same time. There are plenty of Mercenary setups you could use for damage over time builds. We recommend a Toxicologist or Bladebitter Mercenary that shares Grace and Malevolence aura with you, followed by stacking multiple Abyssal Jewels that increase global damage over time taken by maimed enemies. Multiple cold damage over time skills can deal damage at the same time. You will want to use Cold Snap, which deals less damage overall, but covers wider area, doesn't require ramp up, and can inflict Bone Chill debuff to increase all cold damage taken by enemies from all sources. As Elementalist, it will also lower the damage they deal. Your cast speed affects how fast your brand reaches maximum potential, giving this skill additional scaling potential compared to other cold damage over time. Your skills do not need to hit enemies to inflict their damage, meaning they can ignore the proximity shields of your enemies. The defensive aspect is covered by a high amount of energy shield, paired with a bit of evasion rating and block. You can't leech, so you have to rely on the recharge and regeneration. Your chill greatly lowers the damage of affected targets and makes it easier to dodge manually. The clear speed is good and comfortable. Your brands will automatically seek nearby enemies to spread the debuffs. Despite the buffs, the damage against bosses is still quite low. Bossing is easy, it just takes a longer time. This archetype is rather unpopular, which makes the entry price much lower than expected. We recommend getting at least 10 Divine Orbs for the low life variant, but it can be easily tweaked for a league start too, with a hybrid life and energy shield approach. The build has no mandatory unique for functionality. The low life status can be achieved with the Chevron's wrappings, coruscating elixir, or skipped entirely for more defense. The Profane Proxy and Archon's tools greatly boost your skitterbots, but come with a downside. The Chevron's wrappings armor blocks bypassing energy shield, which allows you to reserve life without risk of dying to a minuscule amount of chaos damage. You gain a lot of damage, but also lose a lot of defense compared to a rare armor. The Rime Gaze provides a massive amount of damage, but defensive modifiers are quite limited. It is a great option for a start, but should be replaced later. With the Archon's Tools belt, you will summon an additional skitterbot that applies Scorch, and all ailments inflicted that way will be stronger. It also boosts your reservation efficiency. The downside is that all debuffs applied by skitterbots will be applied to you as well. Replica Dragonfang's Flight Amulet greatly increases your damage through gem levels for the Wintertide brand, but also improves your reservation efficiency, which will be needed to reserve life. With the Profane Proxy Ring equipped on the left slot, your skitterbots will no longer apply chill. Instead, they will curse enemies with a hex of your choice. Due to the unique belt, the curse will also affect you. The Light of Meaning jewel can greatly improve your cold damage when socketed in the radius of the multiple allocated passives. This jewel has multiple variants. The cold version is one of the cheapest ones. The Watcher's Eye grants modifiers depending on your auras. You can obtain a lot of damage over time multiplier from here, as long as you use the Malevolence aura. You can pair it with useful defensive modifiers for Grace or Purity of Elements. The Immutable Force jewel is the easiest way to solve stuns, which are very dangerous for energy shield builds. They can still interrupt your actions, but it is barely noticeable. Thanks to the cheap set of Forbidden Flame and Flesh jewels, you can borrow the Frigid Wake notable from the Occultist Ascendancy. It improves your cold damage and weakens nearby enemies. To boost your damage, you should aim for gem levels, increases to cold spell damage, damage over time multiplier, and cast speed. For defenses, you will want as much energy shield as possible and cap all your resistance. You will also need some strength and dexterity for gem requirements. On the rare weapon, look for a combination of gem levels, cold spell damage, and damage over time multiplier. Cast speed is also important to reach maximum stages faster. The shield can provide a bit of spell damage or gem levels, but its primary role is defense. Look for high energy shield, block chance, or lacking resistance. The helmet grants you the biggest amount of energy shield, so make sure you have lots of it here. It should also grant you some resistances or attributes. You can opt for the Chaos Inoculation Keystone instead, and use a rare armor with tons of energy shield, which will massively boost your defense at the cost of damage output. It can also be used with the Coruscating Elixir, which requires additional flask charge investments. Your boots provide the least amount of energy shield, as you will have to sacrifice one prefix to obtain movement speed. They can also help you avoid bleeding. Your rare gloves are a simple defensive piece. Look for high energy shield and resistances. Eldritch Implicits are very important here. They can grant you a damage over time multiplier and apply cold exposure on hit. A rare ring should provide tons of resistances and attributes. You should upgrade those modifiers with a catalyst as well. It can also improve your mana regeneration rate or grant one minimum frenzy charge. The options on the rare jewels are quite limited. You will want a bonus to energy shield and cold damage over time multiplier. Try to get an immunity to corrupted blood via corrupted implicit. Use a combination of deep chill and prismatic heart to improve your damage, elemental resistances, and make your chill more powerful. Try to get the widespread destruction as the third notable to save passive points. Thanks to the Golem bonuses, the Oriath's End Flask is very deadly and will help you clear up packs of monsters. Do not use it for capping resistances, it is not reliable. If you want to have high defense and still use pain attunement for damage, you will need this flask to prevent chaos damage bypassing energy shield. It's a possible variant, but not really recommended. There are no useful offensive flasks for this build, so you can use the Overflowing Chalice to improve the sustain of your other flasks. It can also be replaced by regular silver flask. For the remaining magic flasks, we recommend a usual defensive setup that grants you movement speed, evasion rating, phasing, and lowers the effect of curses on you. Both Toxicologist and Bladebitter mercenaries can use Malevolence and Grace. You should take advantage of multiple abyssal jewels with the Maim modifier to increase all damage over time taken by enemies. Optionally, you can hire the Striker to get armor, endurance charges, and fortify. The Kineticist is also useful for the haste and elemental weakness, but it is the weakest option. The Maim modifier is mandatory. Supplement it with blind, taunt, life, and resistances whenever possible. You can fit in over 10 jewels into the mercenary gear. The Tomb Fist gloves will ensure your mercenary inflicts maim with hits. The additional curse corruption is more useful than the second abyssal socket. The replica version can fit a lot of abyssal sockets, but it is quite expensive. Start with the regular version at first. You will also want to use Bubonic Trail and Darkness Enthroned for more sockets. With the Eye of Malice helmet, your mercenary will lower the cold resistances of nearby enemies even more. It is more useful than additional abyss sockets. Your mercenary's damage is insignificant anyway. Use the Rearguard Quiver to boost their defense. Pair it with the Widowhail Bow, which boosts the effect of quivers. You will need the Dudra's Damning Ring to allow your mercenary to inflict additional curse. You should get a corrupted version that boosts their aura effectiveness. With the Eternal Struggle Amulet, your mercenary will cull enemies that have less than 15% of their maximum life. Make sure the Searing Exarch modifier is dominant. Wintertide Brand is your main damage over time skill. It creates a brand that attaches to enemies and inflicts them with cold debuff. The Swift Affliction grants a lot of damage, but lowers the duration. You might need to replace it with the efficacy support instead if your cast speed is too low and brands can't reach maximum stages. Cold Snap is a secondary damage over time skill. It deals decent damage and inflicts Bone Chill debuff. The spell cascade greatly improves the area coverage at the cost of potential damage. You can also use the Unbound Ailment support and use this skill purely for utility. Zealotry is an offensive aura that improves your damage with spells. Purity of Elements grants immunity to all elemental ailments and provides a large amount of elemental resistance. In this setup, the Skitterbots will inflict Shock, Scorch, and Frostbite Curse on enemies and yourself. Discipline is a defensive curse that improves your energy shield and its recharge. The Grace aura is your main source of evasion rating. It should be provided by your Mercenary to avoid the dexterity requirements. The exact aura setup will depend on what Mercenary you can find. You won't need the Enlightened support here. Malevolence is another offensive aura. It improves your damage over time skills and prolongs their duration. If your Mercenary has both Grace and Malevolence, you can use the Purity of Ice and the Cold Mastery that grants damage over time multiplier per overcapped cold resistance. Immortal Call is a guard skill that reduces the amount of damage you take for a short time. The cast when damage taken support will trigger the guard skill after getting hit, preventing damage spikes and giving you a chance to recover safely. Shield Charge performs a fast charge towards the targeted location. It has no cooldown and its speed depends on your attack and movement speed. With the faster attack support, you will use your movement skill even more efficiently. As an Elementalist, you will have more golems and their buffs are much stronger. The Flame Golem greatly increases your damage and area of effect. Summon Stone Golem improves your armor and energy shield. It also provides a decent amount of life regeneration, further converted into energy shield regeneration. The cast speed, granted by Lightning Golem, is very useful to ensure your brand can reach the maximum amount of stacks. Mana regeneration is also crucial. The summoned Chaos Golem provides a lot of damage over time multiplier and chaos resistance. Frostbite lowers the cold resistance of affected targets. It will be applied via Skitterbots, but it will also affect you due to the unique belt. It is recommended to get the extra passive point, but at first you can help Alira to make gearing easier. For your major Pantheon power, you should use the Soul of Arakali to reduce the damage taken over time by yourself. If you don't have immunities against bleeding from other sources, you will need the Soul of Ralakesh as your minor Pantheon power. A big advantage of cold damage over time archetype is the ease of leveling. You can acquire the Wintertide brand after reaching the final boss of Act 1, but it is recommended to buy one with maximum quality from other players, as it adds a lot of damage. This build starts very strong, but slows down in the endgame due to limited scaling potential. The campaign is very easy to complete, although you should adjust the passive tree to focus on life instead of energy shield. You can visit the written guide on the website to check out our recommended passive tree progression. The final tree requires decent energy shield items and cluster jewels to be efficient. You will need the brand notables to summon more brands, and the Runebinder Keystone to attach one additional brand to a single enemy. Increasing their duration is also very important to ensure they can reach the maximum stages of debuff. You will also need a bit of mana investments to make gameplay smoother. The new Cold Masteries interact with your resistances. The first mastery lowers your fire resistance, but increases the level of all cold spells. The second mastery is more tricky, as it grants you cold damage over time multiplier per overcapped cold resistance, which requires much better gear to be worth it. We hope after watching this guide you will have no problems taking this very chill build to the endgame. We encourage you to leave a like or subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great day.